There is no question that football is a game filled with an incredible amount of passion and emotion. The fans go crazy to support their favorite NFL teams, and the players do whatever it takes to be the best on the field. However, sometimes emotions run a little too high, which leads to some controversial and very disrespectful moments that leave us scratching our heads and second guessing if that was actually the right thing for them to do. Don't get me wrong, the fans aren't innocent most of the time either. Whether it's cheering an injured player from the opposite team, or in Cleveland's case with Deshaun Watson, their own player, or throwing bottles and trash to show their displeasure in the outcome of a game, the fans have had some unpleasant moments themselves. You know, things are out of line when fans start booing Santa Claus in the stands, and yeah, I'm talking about you, Philly fans. But NFL players are a completely different story. They're supposed to be professionals and show restraint on their outbursts and respect for the game. But in these cases, that just didn't happen. So today we are going to take a look at the top 12 most disrespectful moments in NFL history. Let's begin with number 12 and the human cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Let's face it, Tyreek Hill is fast, and I mean fast. As one of the fastest players in the league today, when he catches the ball in open space, it's usually pretty hard to catch up to him before he reaches the end zone. In Week 12 of the 2020 season, Tyreek Hill caught a pass from Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and ran away from Tampa Bay Bucs safety Antoine Winfield Jr. for a 75-yard touchdown, throwing up a peace sign as he entered the end zone. It didn't stop there, though. Tyreek Hill would catch another touchdown pass, but this time it was a 44-yard touchdown, and he executed a less-than-flawless backflip after he scored. Hill didn't stop there. He then went to the sidelines and grabbed the phone and pretended to call the booth, a la Shannon Sharp from the 90s, and mocked Tampa even more using Uncle Shay's classic line, "We are killing the Patriots." He says help is on the way. Needless to say, the Tampa Bay fans were not happy with Tyreek Hill's performance. They would get the last laugh, including Antoine Winfield Jr., because they would meet again later on that year in the Super Bowl, which was being hosted in Tampa. Tom Brady and the Bucs whooped up on the Chiefs, and to put a big fat exclamation point on the end of their season, Antoine Winfield Jr. would do the exact same peace sign right in the face of Tyreek Hill after a failed 4th and 10 attempt in the fourth quarter, which sealed the championship for the Bucs. In the post-Super Bowl interview, Winfield had this to say about Tyreek Hill's peace gesture.
Hill went off on us. He backflipped in front of my face, gave me the peace sign. So it was only right that I gave him the peace sign right back to him. At this moment, it felt amazing to be able to do that. Not even going to lie.
I guess revenge is best served cold. Needless to say, the peace sign gesture has drawn criticism as taunting the other team, and the NFL doesn't want to see it in the game. Next up is Rob Gronkowski's dirty hit on Buffalo Bills defensive back Tre'Davious White. In Week 13 of the 2017 season, the Bills were playing the Patriots at home, and Tom Brady underthrew a pass to Gronk, and White picks off the pass after pushing off of Gronk to create some space. White was already down and touched by another Patriots receiver, but Gronk was visibly frustrated with the play and decided to take it out on Tre'Davious White. Gronk decided to torpedo his body into White's back way after the play was over. Regardless of what you think happened during the play, Gronk's actions after the play was uncalled for and got penalized and fined for the senseless act. Up next at number 10 is Aaron Rodgers' "I own you" taunt. It's safe to say that when Aaron Rodgers played for the Packers, it was the standard that they were going to beat the Bears. Take a guess at how many times the Bears beat the Packers during Rodgers' 15 years in Green Bay. Go on, you can guess. Well, the Packers and Bears played a total of 30 times, and he only lost 5 of those games. The one that stung the most was the 2010 NFC Championship game. The Bears were so close to getting back to the Super Bowl, but Aaron Rodgers put the dagger in that pipe dream. Rodgers was so lethal in beating the Bears, he beat them 9 out of the last 10 times they played, which sparked this controversial statement. Rodgers holds the best record as a quarterback against the Bears, so I guess he's not wrong when he says he does own the Bears.
Running for the score!
Jordan Love carried on the tradition in 2023 and swept the Bears, so we will just have to wait and see if the Bears can actually get out of the Packers' shadow in the future. And number 9 is one of the most hated players in the history of the NFL, Vontaze Burfict. In an era where the NFL took a more aggressive approach to player safety, Vontaze Burfict decided he wanted to play the game the way they played it back in the 70s and 80s. As one of the talented linebackers on Marvin Lewis's Cincinnati Bengals defense, there was no doubt that their defense should have been feared. But when Burfict decided to start headhunting receivers and running backs themselves, that emotion switched from feared to hatred for Burfict. Take a look at this game from the 2015 season against their division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Burfict was fined $69,454 for multiple dirty hits, including 2 unnecessary roughness penalties and diving at the legs of Big Ben Roethlisberger while he was in the pocket. As a child from South Central Los Angeles, Burfict had a pretty rough childhood and had to scrap his way through college and into the NFL. But his antics and dirty hits were uncalled for and led to some players' justice. But we'll get to those retaliations in a minute. Coming in at number 8 is Antonio Brown's punt return karate kick. I think it's safe to say that former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown has done some bizarre and disrespectful acts both on and off the field. One of the most disrespectful plays he's ever committed, though, happened at home while playing against the Cleveland Browns. Brown catches a 58-yard punt and proceeds to break tackles and split special teams players and looks like he's about to take it to the house. But then Cleveland's punter Spencer Lanning spawns out of nowhere to try to be the hero and save the Browns from a touchdown. Instead, he gets kicked square in the face from Antonio Brown. Now, some people thought this was the funniest play ever, straight out of the longest yard, but the NFL did not think it was funny. Antonio Brown was penalized 15 yards and fined $8,200 for kicking the punter in the face. Antonio Brown would go on to do some more wild stuff, so let me know in the comment section below if you want to see a video of Antonio Brown's wildest moments both on and off the field. We would love to hear from you. Now, we're moving on to number 7, and I want you to remember what I said about Vontaze Burfict receiving some retaliation for all those dirty hits he made against the Steelers. Well, at number 7, Juju Smith-Schuster decided to lay the smackdown on Vontaze Burfict. This game was already intense, and there were a lot of penalties all over the place. Juju Smith-Schuster decided to take justice into his own hands after Burfict made a wild hit on Antonio Brown earlier in the game. Smith-Schuster made a vicious crack block to Burfict. My description can't do it justice, so I'll just let you go ahead and watch it. That hit knocked out Burfict and drew a 15-yard penalty while Smith-Schuster stood over him in celebration. Burfict would be carted off the field with a head injury, and after the game, Smith-Schuster apologized for the hit. But the NFL wasn't having it and suspended him for his conduct on the field. Alright, so far we have seen gestures, verbal taunts, and blindsided blocks, but these next 2 incidents felt like they came straight out of the movie The Longest Yard. And number 5 and 6 on our list are stomping incidents from defensive linemen Albert Haynesworth and Ndamukong Suh. Let's start with Albert Haynesworth and his time playing for the Tennessee Titans. The former defensive tackle was a force to be reckoned with earlier in his career, but his short-fused temper got him in trouble on October 1st, 2006, when the Titans were playing against Dallas. Cowboys center Andre Gurode lost his helmet during the Cowboys touchdown near the goal line, but as the play was over, Haynesworth stomped on Gurode's head and then threw his helmet. You can see Gurode's head all bloodied up from Haynesworth's cleats. Needless to say, Haynesworth received 2 penalties and ejection from the game and a hefty fine. Haynesworth's stomp was bad, but it wasn't as bad as Ndamukong Suh's terrible misconduct during a Thanksgiving game in 2011. Suh was playing for the Lions at the time, and they faced off against their division rivals, the Green Bay Packers. Suh and Packers offensive lineman Evan Dietrich Smith were locked up on a pass play where Dietrich Smith performed an excellent pass block. Suh was so pissed that he shoved his head to the turf multiple times, then stomped on Dietrich Smith's arm while getting up. Suh was fined and suspended for 2 games without pay. But wait, there's more! In my best Billy Hayes, that wasn't the only time Suh decided to stomp out a Packer. He did it again 3 years later in 2014 when he stomped on Aaron Rodgers' ankle and leg, who was already dealing with a calf injury at the time. Some people would think this was an accident, but you can clearly see Suh putting all of his weight on Rodgers' leg with the intent to cause him harm. The NFL League office reviewed this act and initially suspended Suh for 1 game. However, he appealed that decision and the suspension was reduced to a $70,000 fine, but these 2 incidents would travel around the league with him for the rest of his career. Coming in at number 4 on our list is a disrespectful act that happens both on and off the field. No one, and I mean no one, likes to be spit on. Now, I know I could say something nasty about that Haktua girl, but I'm gonna keep it clean today. I mean, no one likes to be spit in the face while playing football, and it is the most disrespectful move a player can do, and Bill Romanowski let it fly in a 1997 game between the Broncos and the 49ers. Linebacker Bill Romanowski was playing for the Broncos at the time, and he spat in the face of 49ers receiver J.J. Stokes. The original Romo was frustrated that the Broncos blew a lead on Monday Night Football, and while J.J. Stokes was right in in his face talking trash, Romo took a huge loogie and hawked it right between their face masks. Some thought this was racially charged. Others thought it was no big deal. Either way, Romanowski was fined $7,500 for the incident by the NFL for unsportsmanlike conduct. He later apologized publicly for the incident and acknowledged his actions were inappropriate. And he was right, it was uncalled for. Just like it was uncalled for Washington Redskins safety Sean Taylor to do the exact same thing in 2006, again on a Monday Night Football game. The Redskins were playing the Bucs and Taylor spat in the face of Bucs running back Michael Pittman during an altercation on the field. This incident led to Taylor being ejected from the game and a $17,000 fine. Now, the top 3 most disrespectful incidents are legendary moments in NFL history, but for all the wrong reasons. All 3 have backstories to how they brewed to these boiling points. So let's start with number 3, and Randy Moss mooning of the goalpost. The Packers absolutely hate the Vikings and vice versa, so when these two teams squared off in the 2004 wildcard playoff game, emotions were already charged. The Packers won their division and swept the Vikings 34-31 both times they played in the regular season, so they were the home team and it was very clear that the Packers had the better team. However, the Vikings played out of their minds in the wildcard game, and Dante Culpepper threw an amazing ball to Randy Moss for a touchdown to pretty much seal the deal for the Vikings and advance to the divisional round of the playoffs. Moss knew the game was over and decided to pretend to drop trow and rub his butt on the Packers' goalpost pad. Longtime NFL commentator Joe Buck said it right during the broadcast, and Moss tried his best to defend his controversial actions. At number 2 comes one of the most memorable moments from 2 of the most popular franchises in the NFL. T.O.'s ball placement on the Dallas Star. The 2000 season was just kicking off and the 49ers were blowing out the Cowboys in their home stadium. Before Jerry World was built in Arlington, Texas, the Cowboys played in a stadium in Irving with an open roof. Some people say it was designed that way so God could watch America's team. Well, 49ers wide receiver Terrell Owens thought what better way to show his love and faith than to go to the Dallas Star and give praise. Some people didn't see it that way, especially Emmitt Smith and the Dallas Cowboys. When Emmitt Smith scored his touchdown, he took his helmet off and ran to the center of the field to plant the ball on the Dallas Star to tell the Niners, "You won't be disrespecting us in our own house." Well, T.O. said game on and scored his second touchdown and raced to the Star again and was met with a huge hit from Cowboys safety George Teague. Owens was penalized for taunting and 49ers head coach Steve Mariucci scolded Owens in front of the entire team after the game in the locker room. He suspended him for 1 game without pay following the incident, but T.O. was known as the most hated man in Dallas for a while after that game. And finally, coming in at the top spot on our list of most disrespectful moments in NFL history involves Seattle Seahawks Richard Sherman and 49ers wide receiver Michael Crabtree. Now, most receivers and defensive backs verbally spar on the field. It's part of the game, but this feud spilled over to off-the-field antics, and it's all because of a personal issue between the two that happened in 2013. Basically, the tension began at a charity event thrown by Arizona wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. Sherman tried to shake hands with Crabtree at the event, but Crabtree wasn't having it, and Sherman saw that as a blatant sign of disrespect. This grudge carried over to their on-field altercations, which was already fueled by being on divisional rival teams. Fast forward to the 2014 NFC Championship game, Richard Sherman deflected a pass intended for Crabtree and sealed the deal for a Seahawks victory and a trip to the Super Bowl. Obviously hyped to be the victor of this feud, Sherman's intense post-game interview with Aaron Andrews was both interesting and a bit awkward. His intense remarks and gestures were lost by Aaron Andrews, who had no idea what Sherman was talking about, but Sherman would later say that his personal vendetta against Crabtree was because of the disrespect shown to him during that charity event. It's amazing what happens when an NFL player's ego is bruised because someone allegedly disrespected them. Well, there you have it, the top 12 most disrespectful moments in NFL history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.